Cat Matlala's third escape attempt from Ebongweni Supermax prison involved a smuggled smartphone, corrupted guards, and a hidden tunnel system that authorities failed to discover for nearly 8 months. Today, we are diving deep into what is supposed to be the most secure prison facility in South Africa, a place where one of the country's most notorious criminals has managed to turn maximum security into something that feels like a personal chess match. What investigators eventually uncovered inside the walls of his cell shocked even veteran officials. We are talking about a man who has become a living legend behind bars, locked inside a facility designed by international experts to be completely impenetrable, yet exposed through a series of events that revealed massive cracks in a system meant to contain the nation's most dangerous offenders. Before we get into the details, let me ask you something. If you were given the task of designing an escape-proof prison, what would you focus on the most? Physical barriers, human oversight, or advanced technology? Think about it for a moment, because by the end of this deep dive, you might completely change your mind about what truly keeps a criminal contained. The name Cat Matlala sends chills through law enforcement agencies across South Africa. Born in the townships of Soweto in 1978, Matlala earned his nickname not because of any feline traits, but because of his almost supernatural ability to slip through the tightest situations imaginable. His criminal record reads like a high-octane thriller, filled with armed robbery, kidnapping, murder, and leadership roles in organized crime networks. But what makes him especially dangerous is not just the violence tied to his name, it is his intelligence. Unlike many career criminals who rely purely on instinct or brute force, Cat Matlala completed his secondary education and showed real talent in engineering and mechanics before entering the criminal world in his early 20s. His first arrest came at the age of 24, but it was only the beginning. Over the next 15 years, he orchestrated bank robberies that totaled more than 30 million rand, ran a highly organized car theft syndicate, and was allegedly responsible for ordering hits on rival gang leaders and key witnesses. By the time he was finally sentenced to 4 consecutive life terms in 2017, prosecutors believed his influence was finally over and that society was safe from him. That belief would turn out to be dangerously optimistic. Ebongweni Supermax prison is located on the outskirts of Kokstad in the Eastern Cape, deliberately built in a remote area to make escape as difficult as humanly possible. The prison opened in 2012 and was designed using blueprints from American Supermax facilities, with additional security input from Israeli experts. It houses South Africa's 200 most dangerous criminals in conditions that push isolation to an extreme. Each cell measures exactly 7 square meters, with reinforced concrete walls 40 centimeters thick, a solid steel door equipped with triple locking systems, and a single window measuring just 20 by 40 centimeters, fitted with bulletproof glass and steel bars. Inmates spend 23 hours a day locked inside these cells. Their single hour of daily recreation takes place in individual concrete yards under constant armed supervision. The facility employs more than 400 staff members, has motion sensors placed every 10 meters, and uses 72 surveillance cameras to monitor every corridor, yard, and shared space. At night, motion-activated floodlights illuminate the entire compound. 2 inner perimeter fences stand 6 meters tall, topped with razor wire and separated by a 15-meter zone filled with underground sensors. Beyond that, an outer fence creates yet another barrier. Guard towers at each corner provide full 360-degree visibility across the complex. On paper, escaping from Ebongweni is supposed to be impossible. Cat Matlala arrived at Ebongweni in March 2018, and within just 4 months, he had already begun the first phase of planning his next move. His first escape attempt came in November of that same year, and for someone with his reputation, it was almost shockingly simple. During a routine medical visit to the prison infirmary, Matlala complained of intense chest pains. Medical staff followed standard procedure and prepared to transfer him to a hospital in Pietermaritzburg for a full cardiac evaluation. That was the opening he needed. The transport required a 3-person guard team and a specially equipped van with a reinforced prisoner compartment. Somewhere between the prison gates and the main highway, 2 of those 3 guards had already been compromised. Investigators would later discover unexplained deposits totaling around 120,000 rand in bank accounts linked to family members of these officers. Nobody ever confirmed exactly how much money was exchanged, but the pattern was clear. The plan itself was straightforward. On a quiet, remote stretch of road, they would fake a tire blowout. While the guards were distracted changing the tire, the 2 corrupted officers would create an opening for Matlala to escape. But they made one critical mistake. The 3rd guard, Officer Cozy, had not been brought into the scheme. When the van pulled over and Matlala's handcuffs were mysteriously unlocked, Cozy immediately sensed something was wrong. He drew his service weapon and radioed for backup. Within minutes, the entire operation collapsed. The escape failed, and the 2 corrupted guards were later arrested and sentenced to 10 years in prison themselves. Most people would assume that after such a public and embarrassing failure, security around Matlala would become airtight. Most people would be wrong. What investigators uncovered in the months that followed revealed a corruption network so deep that it shook the entire South African correctional system. At least 12 prison guards at Ebongweni were secretly working for Cat Matlala. He didn't recruit them randomly. He identified vulnerable targets with surgical precision and exploited their weaknesses one by one. Guard Johannes was buried under gambling debts. Officer Zinel Domini's daughter needed expensive cancer treatment. Officer David Mokaina was driven purely by greed. Matlala's criminal network on the outside, which was still fully operational despite his imprisonment, made contact with these individuals through intermediaries. The approach was always subtle. An anonymous payment toward a debt. A mysterious donor covering medical bills. By the time these officers realized who was really helping them, they already felt trapped and obligated. That was when the real favors began. At first, they were small. Delivering messages between inmates. Ignoring suspicious behavior. Turning a blind eye during certain inspections. Then the requests escalated. The sophistication of the operation stunned investigators. Matlala never communicated directly with corrupted guards. Everything went through cutouts. Payments were carefully structured to avoid detection, disguised as legitimate transactions or routed through family members. When authorities finally dismantled the network in 2021, they found that corrupted officials had enabled everything from drug trafficking inside the prison to the delivery of contraband specifically designed to support escape attempts. The smartphone that entered Cat Matlala's cell in June 2019 marked a major turning point. This was not a cheap disposable device. It was a modified Samsung Galaxy equipped with encrypted messaging apps and a high-capacity battery that could last nearly a week with minimal usage. The phone was small enough to hide in multiple creative locations inside his cell, even during weekly inspections. A corrupted guard smuggled it in by placing it inside a legal document folder during a lawyer visit, and the metal detector just happened to be malfunctioning that day. With that phone, Matlala's world completely changed. He could coordinate directly with his outside network, access the internet, and plan on a level that had never been possible before. He studied prison architecture, analyzed escape attempts from Supermax facilities around the world, and even used satellite imagery to examine the layout of the Ebongweni complex. For 8 months, that phone was his connection to the outside world. When authorities finally discovered it during a surprise cell raid in February 2020, forensic analysis uncovered more than 3,000 messages, hundreds of calls, and a browser history filled with searches for tunnel engineering techniques, guard shift schedules, and topographical maps of the land surrounding the prison. And while that smartphone kept investigators distracted, something else was already happening, quietly, literally beneath their feet. In a rarely used storage basement section of Ebongweni, accessible through a maintenance corridor, someone had been digging. The tunnel began behind a false wall panel inside a storage room filled with old furniture and broken equipment. The entrance was disguised so carefully that guards walked past it dozens of times without ever noticing anything unusual. Using tools smuggled in piece by piece, modified eating utensils, sharpened metal scraps, and even a small hand drill, someone managed to excavate a tunnel nearly 40 meters long. The soil was removed in tiny amounts and quietly mixed into the general waste disposal system to avoid raising suspicion. What shocked investigators most was the level of engineering involved. Wooden support beams were installed to prevent collapse, and a basic ventilation system made from PVC pipes kept fresh air flowing underground. The tunnel's path had been carefully mapped to avoid hitting underground utilities, and its final destination was an abandoned storm drain roughly 50 meters beyond the outer perimeter fence. Authorities only discovered the tunnel in October 2020 because a maintenance worker noticed unusual settling in the floor above the storage area. DNA analysis later suggested that at least 4 different inmates had participated in digging it, which meant coordination across multiple cell blocks without detection. To understand how an inmate with no legitimate income could organize something this complex, you have to understand prison economics. Behind bars, cigarettes, drugs, and cell phones fuel a powerful shadow economy. Matlala was still the head of a criminal organization worth millions. His network outside the prison never stopped operating, continuing to generate income through drug trafficking and protection rackets. A portion of those profits was specifically reserved for his escape fund. Conservative estimates suggest Matlala had access to at least 2 million rand for bribes, tools, and logistical support. Inside prison, transactions happened through coded messages and outside payments to family members. The exchange rate was brutal. What cost 100 rand on the outside might require 500 rand paid to a relative on the inside. Matlala also ran internal gambling operations and offered protection services to vulnerable inmates for a price. This gave him influence that went far beyond money. When he needed a tool, information, or cooperation, he had multiple forms of currency to trade. For someone like Matlala, prison economics were not just about survival. They were about accumulating power for long-term goals. So what drives someone to keep attempting escapes from a facility designed to be completely inescapable? Psychologists point to several defining traits in career escape artists. An extreme tolerance for delayed gratification. High creativity paired with technical intelligence. And an almost pathological level of optimism. Matlala fits all 3. Other inmates described him as someone who treated escape planning like a mental puzzle. He would casually discuss hypothetical escape scenarios as if they were academic problems. This was not desperation. It was intellectual stimulation. For someone with his level of intelligence, spending 23 hours a day locked in a small concrete box creates a mental vacuum. Planning an escape gives purpose, challenge, and a sense of control. Forensic psychologist Dr. Nettie Cumulo suggests that for certain personality types, the planning itself becomes just as important as the outcome. The psychological reward comes from outsmarting the system. The act of trying becomes the real victory. This is why simply increasing security really works. As long as his mind remains active, someone like Matlala will always find new angles to explore. By mid-2021, security around Matlala had been significantly upgraded after the discovery of the smartphone and the tunnel. Cell searches became more frequent. Guard rotations were randomized. Surveillance procedures were tightened. But Matlala is patient. His second major attempt focused on inmate transfers for court appearances. His legal team filed appeal after appeal, generating constant reasons for him to be transported outside the prison. Every court appearance meant movement, and movement meant exposure to the real world, even if only for minutes. The plan this time was elegant and precise. During a scheduled transfer to Durban, A coordinated external team would ambush the transport vehicle at a specific intersection where traffic patterns created predictable congestion. The entire escape window was calculated to be just 90 seconds. Surveillance teams spent weeks studying the route, timing traffic lights, and mapping every possible variable. The escape team consisted of 8 heavily armed men and 2 vehicles designated for extraction. On the scheduled day in August 2021, the transport van left Ebongweni with Matlala shackled inside, accompanied by 6 guards. What Matlala's team did not know was that intelligence officers had already intercepted their communications. As the vehicle approached the planned intersection, it suddenly took an alternate route. Within moments, the ambush team found themselves surrounded by tactical response units. 3 of Matlala's men were killed, 5 were arrested, and the entire operation collapsed in seconds. Inside the van, Matlala reportedly showed no visible reaction. According to officers present, he remained calm, silent, and emotionally detached, as if he had already accepted the failure and mentally moved on to the next plan. The surveillance systems at Ebongweni represent millions of rand in investment, but technology is only as effective as the humans monitoring it. Research shows that after just 20 minutes of continuous screen monitoring, detection rates for unusual behavior drop sharply. Guards watching surveillance feeds for 8-hour shifts become desensitized and mentally fatigued. Matlala understood this weakness perfectly. His tunnel operation took place in areas where cameras existed, but were ignored because nothing ever happened there. Motion sensors across the facility generated so many false alarms from animals, wind, and environmental noise that guards gradually began dismissing alerts. During the 8 months of tunnel construction, sensors were triggered 47 times. Guards responded to exactly 3 of those alerts. The technology did not fail. The human element did. Prison security expert Michael Chan later concluded that the facility had invested heavily in detection hardware but almost nothing in the analytical software needed to make that technology effective. Cameras recorded everything, but nobody was truly paying attention. Data existed, but insight did not. Matlala's criminal organization never collapsed. His second-in-command, known only as Scorpion, continued running operations throughout Gauteng. This outside network supplied funding, gathered intelligence, and maintained logistical support. Even in isolation, Matlala found ways to communicate using coded language in letters, corrupted guards as messengers, and even the prison library system to pass information indirectly. His network operated using extreme compartmentalization. Each member knew only their specific task and nothing more. This structure, commonly seen in terrorist cells, ensured that even if one person was caught, the larger system remained intact. Authorities were always reacting, never fully in control. Ebongweni is not the first prison believed to be escape-proof. History is full of similar examples, from Alcatraz to El Chapo's escape from Altiplano. These cases share the same pattern. Highly intelligent inmates exploiting predictable routines and human weaknesses. What makes Matlala different is not just his methods, but his persistence. Most inmates give up after one failed attempt. Matlala treats every failure as a data point. Overconfidence in security systems creates complacency. Complacency creates gaps. And determined inmates live for those gaps. In November 2022, Matlala launched a third initiative based on legal manipulation and identity fraud. His legal team filed a complex appeal while his outside network created documents for a different cat Matlala, complete with alternate fingerprints and fabricated records. If the appeal succeeded in ordering a retrial, the fake Matlala would be swapped during transport while the real one disappeared. The plan required corrupting court officials and recruiting a convincing body double. Investigators uncovered the scheme when a court clerk noticed inconsistencies in the documentation. By that point, Matlala's network had already spent over 800,000 rand on forged documents alone. When authorities searched Matlala's cell in January 2023, they found 3 detailed maps of the prison hidden inside his mattress, 6,000 rand in cash stored in the toilet tank, and a handcuff key crafted from a bobby pin. The most disturbing discovery was a notebook disguised as a prayer journal. Inside were hundreds of pages documenting guard schedules, camera blind spots, and architectural weaknesses. In response, Ebongweni implemented sweeping reforms. In 2023, cell searches became daily. All legal documents began undergoing X-ray screening. Surveillance was upgraded with AI software designed to detect unusual behavioral patterns. Additional checkpoints were installed, and psychological intervention programs were introduced to reduce escape motivation. These changes added an extra 12 million rand per year to the prison's operating budget. Every failed attempt added more charges to Matlala's sentence. He now faces 4 life terms plus 63 additional years. In practical terms, this makes no difference, but legally it sets important precedents. The total cost of his escape attempts is estimated to exceed 40 million rand, money diverted from other correctional priorities across the system. The future of prison security sits at the crossroads between technology and human nature. Automation can reduce human error, but it raises ethical questions about surveillance, control, and dehumanization. As of early 2025, Matlala remains in Ebongweni under the highest security classification available. Those who know him believe he will never stop looking for weaknesses. The real question is not whether he will try again. The question is when. Matlala is not playing the same game as everyone else. While the system focuses on containing him today, he is already thinking about possibilities 5 years into the future. His story exposes an uncomfortable truth. Human ingenuity can find cracks in any system, no matter how advanced it appears.